Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about a very frequent question I get with regards to meditating and the concept of how do I quiet my mind? How do I stop thinking? How do I calm down this chatter, this non-stop highway of thoughts that go every single minute, every single hour, every single moment? This question to me is very interesting, and it's one that I asked myself when I started to meditate. And a lot of people struggle because they say, I try to meditate, but I just have too many things going on, I have too many thoughts, and I just won't be able to do it. So let's break this down a little bit. First of all, let's think about this. If I said that I wanted a certain organ in my body to stop functioning for a second or for a couple minutes to do a meditation, if I said I want my heart to stop, I need my liver to stop functioning, I need my lungs to stop functioning so that I can do a 10-15 minute meditation, then what would you think? You would think you're insane because your body needs this. Your body needs these organs to survive. So in a similar way, why do we think that our brain, our mind, has to stop functioning in order to do something such as meditation? No, I think what we're really getting at here is that our mind is, for many of us, is overactive, right? Because we are constantly thinking about things from the past, things from the future, things that haven't happened yet that we're planning to do, or trying to figure out the best way to do something. We're trying to be strategic. We're trying to figure out solutions to our problems, and that's what keeps our mind overactive. And for a lot of us, that's what keeps us from sleeping. But when we start to disidentify, we start to separate ourselves from our mind. A lot of people speak about this concept of no mind, this concept of thoughtlessness. Okay, instead of thoughtfulness, it's thoughtlessness. And they get very confused by the concept of how is it possible not to have any thoughts. Now, at least in my opinion, the truth to this is that you're not trying to have no thoughts. You're not trying to shut down or freeze your mind or your brain. What you're really trying to do is to separate yourself from it, is to not put a label on yourself and say, I am my mind. Because to me, it's like it's a disease. All of our organs, like I was mentioning earlier, are necessary for us to survive, for us to function, as is our brain. However, throughout time, our brain, our mental capacity has been overused, in my opinion, to the point that it's constantly overactive. And one of the flaws I believe that caused this is because we started to believe and to think that we are our minds. We are our thoughts. When somebody asks you, who are you? You start digging into your brain and you start thinking, well, I have such and such degree, I am a parent, I am someone's child, I am, you keep digging and your brain keeps trying to give you information, and all this is they're all thoughts. And when a situation happens, let's say a negative situation happens in your life, and you initially, in that moment of the situation, of the problem, you have emotions You react to the situation, but then after the situation is over, you keep thinking about the problem. And now you're identifying yourself. This one thought basically ruins your entire day. Not the action that occurred, because the action, technically your emotions left your body once the action occurred, but what continued going were your thoughts on the situation. If it was with the person, you're maybe thinking, I can't believe this person did that to me, I'm not going to talk to them. You're feeling hurt, you keep kind of replaying the scenario in your head all day, and that thought, or those thoughts, are the thing that ruined your day. There could be everything else around you in your current present reality can be going wonderfully. Things can actually be going great at work that day. You're getting your work done. Nobody else has given you an issue. Your family's okay. You have food at home. You have a car that gets you to work. You have a job in general that brings in income. In general, you have everything that you need, and you're happy. But it's that one thought that made you feel, because you identified with it. You're saying, this thought is me. This is me. This is what I'm going through. This is what I'm feeling. So now your entire day is ruined because of a thought. And that's what happens every day of our lives. So when we think about reaching this place of no mind, or this separation, the idea that I have, the analogy I have is, picture yourself right now in traffic, high volume traffic, bumper to bumper, and for most people, it's an irritating experience. So in that moment that you're in the car, and maybe you need to get to work, or you need to get to somewhere, you have an appointment, that you're looking at the time, all of these factors, they're creating this stress on you, they're creating this anxiety, and you're very frustrated. So you're in that moment, and you're attaching yourself to everything. You're identified with everything that's going on, and you're feeling all these negative emotions. You're feeling stressed out and angry and frustrated. But let's say you went on an airplane and you're going on a flight, and when you start looking down, right as the airplane flies off, you start looking out of your window, and you look at the streets. You look maybe at the highway that you just went on to get to the airport, and you start noticing that this highway is stuck in a traffic jam. You start seeing maybe the red brake lights of all the cars, or you start seeing the white headlights, and you start noticing, oh wow, that's actually kind of beautiful the way it looks from up here. You start observing it, and it doesn't bring you any irritation, doesn't bring you any frustration, or no negative emotions. You're just looking at it, and in a way kind of appreciating it. You might even think, oh, thank God I'm not in that traffic. But that analogy, it simulates how your mind works, and how it works when you're attached to your thoughts, and when you keep a distance from them, and you're simply observing them. So you want to become that second scenario. You want to become the person that's observing the thoughts from a distance. They're still going to be there. Notice in both scenarios, there is traffic. So thoughts are going. But you're keeping a distance from them. You're no longer putting yourself inside the traffic, or being frustrated that you're inside of it. No, you kept that distance. And what happens is, when you create that gap, there's a distance between your thoughts and you, the observer, in your mind. That gap allows for that moment of bliss, that moment of clarity, that moment of peace. Because when you are attached to your thoughts and you think you are your thoughts, and you feed it, you're feeding your brain, you you basically torture yourself. Honestly, you torture yourself all day because you keep identifying yourself with your thoughts. So I think the goal is to reach that place where you can separate yourself from what you're thinking, because you are not your thoughts. Um, it's actually kind of funny to me if that's really what we think, that we're such a complex species, not just humans, but go deeper, and you go into the soul, and this light force, this energy that we are and have been for a very long time. And to think that all our lives, or most of our lives, we've thought that we're just these bundle of thoughts, and we allow it to dictate our lives. We allow it to dominate us. Now let's think about our body parts for a second. Think about your hands, right? Right now my hands, they're on my lap and they're pretty still. But if I needed to go and grab something, I consciously choose to use my hand to grab and close my hand, and grab onto something. My legs, I consciously choose to sit, lay down when I know that they're not needed, but when I know I have to get up to go get something, or to go outside, or to drive, I consciously make a choice to go and drive. Why is our brain or our mind any different? Why do we not think that the brain or the mind can be something that is a tool that can be picked up when it's needed and then placed back down when it's not? And when we start realizing this, and we gain consciousness of this and gain awareness, that's when we really start to discover new things about ourselves. We start truly finding out who we are, what we are, what limitations we have, what strengths we have, what abilities we have, and so on. Because when you reach this point of separating yourself and becoming what many people know as the observer, you become the observer of your thoughts, the observer of your life. You don't react to everything that happens. You don't react to everything that happens because you don't identify with everything that happens. You're simply an observer. And for example, when you're at a job, instead of constantly thinking about maybe deadlines or things that haven't come yet, and you're stressing yourself out and becoming anxious, you're in that scenario, your mind is constantly being used. It's overactive. But if you can separate yourself and become the observer and live in the present moment, you can then separate and say, okay, right now, in the present moment, I need to work on this rapport. So you pick up your brain, in a sense, you pick up your mind and say, okay, it's time to put you to work. I need you to get this done. You pick it up, you focus it on that report, and when you're done, you could put it back down until you need to use it again. Other than that, your brain, your mind should be in a state of just tranquility and observing. But in today's world, this is actually a rarity. And I do believe that we should be trying to get back to this kind of state, back to this way of living, this way of being, because it will help us. Once you calm down your mind, like I said, in the beginning, we just separate ourselves to become the observer, but what you start noticing is naturally, throughout time, you're going to notice your brain activity, it calms down. I'm not going to get too much into any kind of research or evidence right now, but there are various studies that show how meditation calms certain parts of the brain that in prior tests have been overactive, causing many things like anxiety or depression, and meditation creating this gap in your mind and not allowing these thoughts to consume us have really allowed us to live a more peaceful life, a more tranquil life. So when you ask yourself, how can I calm this chatter down? Just start with the simple step of becoming the observer. Okay? Observe your thoughts. That's all. Don't attach yourself to them. Don't react. Don't allow yourself to be consumed. Just observe them and acknowledge them and keep moving forward. And pick up your brain only when you really need it. Alright. Thank you for watching, everyone. Into the next video.